Hey y'all, how we doing today? I'm happy to be back with my podcast style videos. It's only been like a week, but the problem is it's hard for me to film these kinds of videos when from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. there is construction in my building that is so incredibly loud. I cannot film. I can't do anything. I can't think. And there's only a short window between 5 p.m. and 6 p.m. where it's still kind of light out, like not dark yet, and it's quiet. But normally during the week, there's like more people in my apartment, and I don't really like to film out here in the living room. I have to film in my room, but my room is really echoey. It's not good for long videos. So you see what kind of conundrum I'm in. You see what kind of problem I'm in. But it's temporary. In March, in the beginning of March, I'm going to go to Mexico, and I think the room that I'm going to be in there is going to be good for filming. So I'll be able to just like sit at a desk and film in my room, like any time of day. So hopefully I'll do more podcast style videos then. I wonder if I'll ever run out of things to talk about. Probably not. I love to talk. I have a WhatsApp group, if you haven't heard. We turned it into a group chat, actually. It was just a broadcast style, but we decided in the group to turn it into a group chat, so now members can respond. I regularly send long audio messages. So if you love this kind of content, if you just love to listen to me talk like podcast style, then you would probably enjoy the messages in the WhatsApp group chat. So the link for that, to access that, is on my channel page if you're interested. Now let's get into the videos. Today, I'm going to be talking about common stereotypes that people from outside of the United States have of people from the United States. I just realized I always wear this shirt when I'm filming. I don't know, it's my Saturday shirt. What can I say? Hello, I'm filming this after I filmed the whole video. So I just want to say before we get into it that there are 340 million people in the United States. That's why the entire concept of stereotyping countries is insane, or really any big group of people. And I don't think we should do that. But I'm making this video because it seems like there is a lack of information about what people actually eat in the United States. And because of that, there are a lot of stereotypes because people just don't really know. So I'm just making this video to inform people, and also because I thought it'd be fun. I thought it'd be a little entertaining and interesting. But I just wanted to clarify that I don't really support stereotyping, and I think we should stop doing that and instead just actually meet a bunch of people from the country, talk to people from the country, actually ask them about their childhood and what they actually experienced. So that's what I'm going to share in this video, just my perspective, my experience growing up in the US. All right, so enjoy. There is this idea that people in the United States eat a ton of fast food. There is this idea that the United States doesn't have like a cuisine, or like there are no traditional foods, or that everything comes from a can or a box or a jar. There's just this general idea that like the way people eat on a regular daily basis is not like how people eat in other countries. And I just want to come on here and say all of that is false, or it's not universally true. A lot of us grew up in households where eating fast food was a special treat. It was a treat for once in a while. It was not something we did regularly. And it was considered unhealthy. So it was like not something to do often. A lot of people grew up like that. Not everybody, but a lot of people did grow up like that. I have no memory, zero memories of my mother taking me to McDonald's. I have a lot of memories of going to like Mexican, like Tex-Mex restaurants with my mom, Thai food, getting like pad Thai, a lot of sandwiches. We used to go to Subway, but I have zero memories of my mother taking me to McDonald's. I don't think she ever did my entire childhood. And I know for a lot of other kids, it was a once in a while thing. A lot of you who watch my videos are from Latin America, so I'm going to explain this kind of in the context of like compared to Latin America. So in Latin America, it's very common where the lunch is like the main meal and the dinner is not as important. Well, in the United States, it's often flipped. So the lunch is not as important. The dinner is like the most important meal of the day. I had this Brazilian ask me, what are our staple foods? Like, what are the foods that you can find in every meal? Because like in Brazil, you got your rice and beans. It's like the core of the meal. And he wanted to know like what would be the core of the meal in the United States or in my childhood. And I'm here to tell you that even though the specific foods might be different and the seasoning and certain preparation methods might be different, the general macronutrient profile of the meal is basically the same. In the United States, in Latin America, it's the same thing in the sense of, nowadays I'm vegan, but I grew up with non-vegans. So there was usually like a piece of animal flesh, like meat, some animal product. There was a carbohydrate, a starch. Starch is like a complex carb, like potatoes, pasta, bread. Those are probably the most common starches that we ate. And a vegetable or a salad or both. And maybe like one or two other little things on the plate, but that's pretty much it. Like that is the main meal that I ate so often as a kid. Like most of my dinners looked like that, or a lot of them looked like that. An animal product, a starch, and a vegetable. It's the same thing in Latin America. Like the meat, the rice and beans, the vegetable, the salad, or whatever. Like it's the same thing. It's just instead of rice, it's potato, or it's pasta, or it's, like it's just swapping out different things. Maybe the vegetables are a different kind of vegetable, or the meat has a different sauce, or like it's at the end of the day, it's the same macronutrients. It's the same, probably the same amount of carbohydrate, protein, fat, fiber, whatever. Like it's the same amount, roughly. Now, as a vegan, I eat differently, right? Because I don't eat the animal product. So my meals look different. So as an adult, I eat differently. But most people in the United States and in the world are not vegan. So I'm telling you how most people eat. So day in and day out, regularly, this is what our meals look like. And for cultural reasons, maybe for lunch, we just had a sandwich. For breakfast, a lot of people have this idea that an American breakfast is like bacon and eggs and sausage. And that's, in my experience, that is like a special occasion breakfast. Maybe on the weekend or something when you have more time or you feel like having more stuff. But most of the time, most of my childhood, for breakfast, I had a bowl of cereal with milk, or I used to make like an egg and cheese sandwich, like a fried egg with cheese on top and like in a bagel or like just bread. No bacon, no sausage. Sometimes we did pancakes. This is what I ate for breakfast. Nowadays, an adult, I don't eat any of these things. I could, if I wanted to, I could eat like vegan pancakes and cereal. I just don't really care about it. I don't really like it. I don't even really like it. I'd rather eat other stuff, so I don't eat it. But that's what I used to eat for breakfast as a kid. And then for lunch, I'd probably take a sandwich to school, a sandwich and some fruit. Some kids had like chips or, cookies or something. But my mom was like one of the more healthier moms that would like just pack me fruit and stuff. But yeah, other kids did grow up in houses that had more soda and more chips, more like ultra processed packaged food. Like, yeah, other kids did grow up with more of that than I did. But when it comes time for dinner, I think their meals still looked similar to mine. Like meat, starch, vegetable. Like that's like a classic. If you go to an American restaurant, like a United States traditional restaurant, that's what your plate is going to look like. Remember, in English, plate does not mean meal. It's just literally the plate. I'm talking about like your actual physical plate and what's on top. But you can't say like, what's the typical plate in your state? You have to say, what's the typical food or dish or meal? But you can't say plate. So just so you know. And the other myth that I want to dispel is that there are absolutely local, traditional American cuisines. I'm from Maine, so a lot of the traditional food there has like seafood, like clam chowders and lobsters and stuff like that. It's a little expensive, seafood's a little expensive, but there's a lot of traditional like seafood dishes. In my state, they grow things like potatoes, a lot of eat a lot of potato stuff. They grow blueberries, and there's a lot of different berries where I'm from. Like you can even find like sweet blackberries in the woods. So there's a lot of like blueberry pie, stuff like that. A lot of pies, fruit pies. I grew up going to a lot of different restaurants, and every time we went to like a more American style restaurant, they had a big menu with a lot of stuff. And every region of the United States has different local food. The South has a lot of traditional stuff that's very unique to the South. And another thing is the idea that everything comes from a can or a box or whatever. I'm fighting against that by being someone who cooks a lot and learns a lot about cooking and food. And I never buy canned beans. I make my beans from scratch. And, and also you got to understand, like in the case of my mom, compared to her mother and her grandmother, my mom was incredibly busy. My mom worked a full-time job, came home and was tired and didn't want to spend a lot of time on cooking. Her mother and her grandmother, they didn't have jobs. They didn't have to deal with that. I mean, they had jobs, but I mean, they didn't have jobs outside of the house. They didn't have money jobs. Their jobs were house-related stuff, which is even more work, but when you only have to focus on that, it is easier. And we also lived out like far from grocery stores. We were pretty far, like a 30-minute drive in a car from a grocery store. So yeah, my mom definitely did buy food that she could just keep in the freezer. My mom did have jars of pasta sauce, and we definitely used things from boxes. I grew up eating a lot of mac and cheese from a box and stuff. But my mom tried to get the healthier kind. Like she'd get me like organic mac and cheese. She'd get like whole wheat pasta instead of white pasta. So my mom tried like to do her best, but she just didn't have the energy and time to spend on cooking. And it's the same thing with all my other parents, my dad, my stepdad, my stepmom. They all had full-time jobs. I'm talking about my mom the most because I spent the most time probably eating food from her, but all the other parents were in the same situation. One of the most common meals that I think people in the United States have in their regular rotation, like every week they eat something like this or every couple weeks, is some version of like pasta with tomato sauce and maybe some meat, like meatball or whatever. This is something we ate all the time. And I think families that have Italian heritage, families that are more descendant of actual Italians in the United States are probably going to be more likely to make pasta sauce from scratch. But a lot of families who can't be bothered, they just don't really have the energy or the interest to make sauce from scratch, and it's not really part of their heritage, they're probably just going to buy tomato sauce in a jar. It just makes life easier, and with everything they got going on, you can't blame them. So I don't judge my mom for using, things to make life more convenient, buying salad dressings already made instead of making them at home. I have a lot more time than my mom. I also have a lot more interest in nutrition science. I'm also vegan. So all of these factors together kind of allow me to, or force me to, make more of my food from scratch. But I don't judge my mom for not doing it as much because I understand her situation. And I think a lot of people are in that situation. Okay, so I think I've talked enough about the food stuff. I didn't expect to talk this long about it, but it's one of the things I get asked about the most. One of the things that people are so quick to say. When I first got to Bogota, Colombia, I had a taxi ride. I just thought about how I say Bogota and then I say Colombia. Like I pronounce one of them correctly and the other one Colombia. Anyways, my first ride from the airport to my Airbnb when I got to Bogota, the taxi driver just basically told me, yeah, you guys in the US, you don't have your own food, right? You just eat fast food. And it's just crazy the level of confidence that people really believe this. People really think that we don't have local food just because you don't see like a lot of American style restaurants in your country besides places that just serve burgers and fries or whatever. I guess if that's all you see for like American food, then that's what you would think that we just eat all the time. But that's just the food that got famous and universal enough to be commodified and sent overseas. That's just because the big corporations of like McDonald's spread across the world. But that doesn't mean that that's what we eat. Those are just the big corporations that were able to spread across the world. That's not our diet. But it's crazy how many people and older generations that just, I don't know where they get this information from, but they say it with such confidence. Like they just know. It's like, it's also funny because I lived for years in Ecuador. And Ecuador is obsessed with fried chicken. They love fried chicken. Like I even lived out in the countryside with Ecuadorians who used to make fried chicken at home. And it's funny because in Ecuador, in the cities, you'll see like a KFC, and then across the street, you'll see like an Ecuadorian fried chicken place. And it's like, it's the same thing. Maybe the seasoning is a little different, but it's fried chicken. So it just goes to show you like how similarly people eat all over the world. And I just think it's very ironic of Latin Americans to act like people in the US just eat like fast food or fried food all the time. Because when you travel through Latin America, you're constantly seeing fried all the time, like fried empanadas and like everything like that. Like Latin America loves to fry everything that it can. They love fried meat, fried carbs, fried everything, like deep fried. Like that is fast food. Like that is just as unhealthy as any fast food. So just like in Brazil, how you eat your little salgados, your little coxinhas and stuff like that, but then you go home and eat rice and beans and whatever, like a more like real meal. It's the same thing in the United States. Here and there, people might go out and get something fast or fried or whatever. But when they go home and they cook, a lot of the times it's the same kind of meal. It's like an actual normally cooked meal. I'm just saying that as somebody who eats a healthy plant-based diet and avoids deep fried food, I travel around and I see people constantly eating fried food. I see people constantly putting cheese and dairy and meat and all this super fatty stuff into everything they can. I see people cooking with tons of oil everywhere I go. And probably the healthiest places I've been, the places where I saw the most plant foods and fresh plant foods being eaten was in Asia, like in Vietnam and stuff. So if they want to talk shit about, cuisine over here in the Americas, have at it. But Latin Americans can't say shit because I know what you guys eat. I just had Brazilian rice and beans and it was so salty. It was like almost gross. It was so salty. You guys need to calm down with the salt, okay? I love you, but you got a heavy hand. You're putting too much salt and oil. Now, but Ecuador does that too. Colombia does that. They all do that. But yeah, from the perspective of somebody who eats a healthy plant-based diet, I travel the world and I see that everybody's putting themselves at high risk of heart disease, our number one killer, cardiovascular disease. So from my perspective, what my family's eating in the United States is not really that different. All right, if you have any questions about anything I said in the video, let me know in the comments. I'll try my best to respond. If you become a member of my YouTube channel, it guarantees that I will respond to your comments. So if you want me to for sure see and respond to your comments, you can always join my YouTube channel. You can go on the channel page, and there's a little button that says join. Also, I think on this video, there's a little button that says join. So that's that on that. All right. Have a fabulous day. Remember to eat more plants. Take care of yourself now. Also, these fast food places, these corporations, McDonald's, KFC, stuff like this, they wouldn't exist in Latin America if a ton of people didn't go there and buy that stuff. So you see how we're all victims to these corporations and we're all brainwashed to eat the same stuff? Well, you have the power to break the cycle. Vote with your dollar and stop supporting those corporations. Take care of your body. Your body is a temple. Everything that you eat, it fuels your brain. It fuels who you are as a person. It fuels your long-term health. Take care of yourself. Make smart decisions. Thank you. Bye-bye.